horror and hope. Once upon a time, there was a boy named David. David was a young Jewish boy with curious eyes and a heart full of hope. He lived with his family in a small village until one day, during the Second World War, they were forced to leave their home and board a train bound for a place called Auschwitz. The journey on the train was long and agonizing. David looked out of the window, watching the tracks vanish into the horizon. Upon arriving at Auschwitz, David's family was separated. It was the last time David saw his mother and father. He was left alone with his sister, Sarah. Together, they endured the harsh conditions of the camp, trying to support each other and find a glimmer of hope amidst the surrounding horror. Every day, David and Sarah would gaze at the empty train tracks. They hoped that the train would return, reappear in their lives, and take them away from Auschwitz. That train represented the hope for a new life, far away from suffering and death. But unfortunately, the train never came back for them. One day, while David and Sarah were waiting for their turn for forced labor, they overheard conversations about gas chambers, about people disappearing without a trace. It was the greatest horror they had ever heard. They began to understand that the longed-for train would never represent their salvation, but rather their condemnation. One by one, members of David's family were led to the gas chambers. Sarah was taken away, leaving David alone in that place of terror. He looked at the empty train tracks once again, but this time, his hopes had vanished. The train would never bring his family back. David survived Auschwitz, but his innocence and youth were stolen by the war. As he grew older, he carried the pain of his losses and the memory of those empty train tracks that symbolized shattered hope. Years later, David still remembered those empty train tracks. But instead of succumbing to despair, he decided to transform his experience into a warning for the world. He shared his story, so that no one would forget the horror that humanity can inflict. He did everything he could to spread knowledge, compassion, and hope, in the belief that one day the world could be a better place. Despite all the atrocities David had experienced at Auschwitz, his spirit had not been completely broken. He dedicated his life to honoring the memory of his family and all those who had lost their lives during the Holocaust. After the war, David settled in a new country and got married. Together with his wife, he began working with organizations that promoted Holocaust awareness and intercultural tolerance. David shared his story in schools, universities, and communities worldwide, seeking to educate people about the terrible consequences of hatred and intolerance. Over the years, David became a living witness of the Holocaust, a voice that resonated in the midst of silence. His words were filled with emotion and hope, inspiring people to fight against hate and promote understanding among different cultures and religions. He didn't just speak, but also wrote. David published a book in which he told his story, including the memories of his parents and his sister. Through its pages, people could immerse themselves in his past and understand the immense tragedy he had faced. David also founded a non-profit organization dedicated to providing support and aid to Holocaust survivors and their families. He committed himself to ensuring that no one would be forgotten, working to create memorials and promoting historical research on the Holocaust. Despite the pain he carried in his heart, David found the strength to forgive. He realized that forgiveness was not a way to erase the past, but rather a way to free oneself from the burden of hatred and anger. He chose to dedicate his life to building a better future, so that no child would ever have. User. Continua. ChatGPT. To experience the horror he had endured. David's words resonated in the minds and hearts of many people. His testimonies deeply touched the listeners, inspiring them to fight for justice and peace. Schools established Holocaust education programs so that future generations could learn about the history and learn from the mistakes of the past. David spent the following years spreading his message of hope and working to preserve the memory of Holocaust victims. Although his family could not be brought back from those empty train tracks, his commitment and determination served to preserve their memory and ensure that their stories would not be forgotten. David's life was a reminder of the strength of the human spirit, an example of resilience and compassion. His story is a living testimony to the ability to hope even in the darkest moments. Through his actions and words, he became a beacon of light, shining a path toward understanding, tolerance, and a brighter future. As time went on, David's impact continued to grow. His efforts contributed to a broader understanding of the Holocaust, fostering empathy and promoting unity among people of different backgrounds. David's legacy lives on, carried by those who heard his story and shared his message. The world continues to strive for a better future, guided by the lessons learned from the past. The empty train tracks serve as a haunting reminder of the atrocities committed, urging us to never forget and to work together to ensure that such horrors are never repeated. David's story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, hope and compassion can prevail. It teaches us the importance of standing up against hatred, injustice, and intolerance, and inspires us to create a world where every individual is treated with dignity and respect. In the end, David's journey was not just a story of horror and loss, but also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope. His unwavering determination to make a difference continues to inspire generations to come, reminding us that even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope shining through.